In this video, I want to talk to you guys about some of the lessons and takeaways I had from riding the Black Canyon in a day and pushing the limits of my endurance farther than I ever have. My name is Tess. Welcome back to Dusty Betty. This is the final video in my Black Canyon in a Day series. If you've missed these other videos, I will make sure that I link the rest of them so that you can check that out. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you click the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber, and give this video a like because it helps other people find my content as well. If you want to do a little more to support this channel, consider becoming a patron. I'll include a link to that in the description. And you could also support Dusty Betty by buying some Dusty Betty branded gear. I've got everything from t-shirts to hoodies, gear bags, changing ponchos, and Dusty Betty socks. So make sure you check some of that out. There was a lot going on the day that I rode the 60-mile segment of Black Canyon in a day. And I didn't have the chance to talk about all of it in that video because it was pushing me so hard mentally and physically that I had to just kind of focus on riding. And I just wanted an opportunity to kind of get the closure and talk to you guys a little bit more about some of the things that happened that day and some of the takeaways that I had from it. I thought it'd be kind of fun to break this up and talk a little bit about the trail, Black Canyon itself, talk a little bit about my bike choice for this trail and how I felt about that, talk a little bit about the physical as well as the mental aspects of doing this ride. So first of all, for the Black Canyon Trail, as advertised by my husband and all the friends I talked to who've done this trail, it's the kind of one where the miles are pretty strenuous. One of my local patrons, kind of hilariously, but just put it so well, he just said, curse those XC sadists who built this trail, because it is an XC route, but it's pretty tiring cross-country miles because a lot of it has you going up and down a lot, in and out of small washes, and then you also have a few really like creek crossings where you're going down, a few hundred feet and then immediately several hundred feet back out. And you do that quite a few times over the course of your day riding the Black Canyon in a day. So you've got a lot of miles. Yes, you're generally losing elevation, but you have still a lot of big climbs that you have to pull as well. The route isn't super technical, although there are a few technical sections. The miles are pretty demanding if it's something that you're going to do in one day. Another thing that I learned about this route is that cell service is pretty limited. There are a lot of times when you can get a text message or a call out, but there are really long stretches, especially toward the middle, where you are incommunicado. So I think, especially if you were doing this self-supported, it would still be a really good idea to make sure that you have people who know your exact route, where you're going, maybe have some emergency points where you cross fire roads in case someone did need to come and bail you out. But it's remote out there and you're not just going to have cell service all day long. Another thing that was interesting about the Black Canyon Trail is there are several creek crossings, and having driven support for my husband before doing the Black Canyon Trail in a day, I learned that sometimes those creek crossings are quite deep and it's quite a fiasco crossing them, and you're taking your shoes off because you don't want them to get soaked and crossing. And then there are times like when I did it and most of the creek crossings were completely dry. We had 2 crossings where we had a little bit of water, but it was pretty easy to get across. So I think another good thing that I learned about this trail is I think it pays to kind of do the research and kind of get the local intel on what's going on the creek level, just so that you're prepared for whatever you're going to come across. Another thing that occurred to me with this trail being so remote was that I think it was a really good idea that the 3 of us who did this ride together, myself, my husband Steve, and our friend Cody, we all had the GPS route on our devices so that we all had the ability to navigate. This was handy when there were stretches where we were a little bit spaced out, that we could all still tell that we were on track if we crossed a trail or a road, and just know that we were still on the right track. And it's also a good precaution in case of emergencies if your group has to split up. A little bit about my bike situation on this trail. I rode my new Ibis Ripley. Now I have a kind of a light cross-country trail-ish hardtail, and that bike is nice and light and swift, and it's a lot of fun to ride. The carbon weave on that bike, it's an Ibis DV9. I will say it is a little bit harsh for lighter riders like me, which isn't always a big deal, but on a long day like this, I knew that if I was on that bike, it was going to spank me and it was going to make me tired a lot quicker. So I was kind of holding out on doing this until I had kind of a light, nimble, full suspension bike, and the Ibis Ripley definitely fit the bill for that. It's got about 130 millimeters of travel, and you definitely don't need much more than that. You can definitely get by with less. Like I said, this is a kind of route you could do it on a cross-country bike. I'm just more comfortable on trail bike geometry. I like a little bit of a slacker bike, just kind of pushes that front tire out in front of you a little more. I like the way the suspension works in the fork on a bike like this, and it just makes me a lot more comfortable when I'm kind of coming down into a steep wash and have to like pump through it really kind of swiftly and abruptly for like a steep little climb. I just like the geo on this bike for myself. It's just more what I'm used to, and it did really, really well. I definitely think it's nice if you can be on a sub 30 pound bike on a route like this, especially if you're, a light rider, and a over 30 pound bike, it becomes a lot of bike for you to pedal. I thought this bike rocked it, and I was comfortable. I didn't feel like my bike was dragging me down at all, and it really helped take the sting out of some of the chatter on this trail so that I could pull a long day. I was also running some new tires. I've got a Specialized ground control, and I've also got a Butcher on the front, and these tires did awesome. They just had such phenomenal grip, and they were fast rolling, and the lugs on these ones didn't get stuck on some of the kind of nubbly rock. Sometimes you're riding trails and you hear your tires going ping, 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 as it's like sticking to all the rock. But these did great. I didn't have any problems with that. And they were phenomenal grip, even in the loose kind of kiddie litter, like rocky soil with lots of flat turns that get tighter unexpected. There were a lot of those on this trail. And I never lost traction, even pedaling up out of steep washes. So I was super pleased, and I would definitely buy these Specialized tires again, especially that ground control as a rear tire has been awesome. I'm also super grateful that none of us had any mechanicals in the group over the entire day, which is amazing. Over that many miles with all that sharp rock, the fact that we didn't even get a flat tire was kind of miraculous. So I'm super, super grateful for that. That usually doesn't happen on a long trail day. Next, I thought I'd talk a little bit about the physical aspect and some of the things that I learned. I learned that 3 weeks to train in my case was enough. I had my baseline fitness was okay enough that I could pull it off. But I do wish that I had had a little bit longer to train. Sometimes an opportunity comes your way and you can say yes or no. I decided to say yes. But I wish I could have held just a little bit quicker pace for a little bit longer. I think we would have been able to finish without headlamps if I'd been able to hold just a little bit harder pace for more of the day. Maybe just more like a month and a half to train rather than 3 weeks would be awesome. I think probably the biggest lesson learned for me on the physical side of this had to do with my nutrition on this ride. Now, I really like using Tailwind Endurance Fuel for things like this. It's something that you add to your water, and it just keeps you topped off with some calories and some electrolytes. And you can use it exclusively, or you can use it in conjunction with a little bit of solid food as well. I had kind of had myself prepared that I could do kind of a combination of the two, or I could just rely on Tailwind and just kind of listen to my body and see how I was doing. Well, on the ride to the trailhead, I forgot to lock the bite valve on my hip pack. So I accidentally had my foot on the bite valve, and it spilled all of the Tailwind water that I had in my water reservoir. Now, fortunately, I was able to refill it with water, but that meant that the first 24 miles until our first point where we crossed paths with our support vehicle, I didn't have calories pretty much. So that was kind of a bummer. And I learned that for me, doing that on a long day like that starts me off on a really bad foot. It got me nauseous. I just wanted to throw up. Every time I'd take a bite of solid food, I just wanted to throw up. And it also started me off with a bit of a calorie deficit on that first third of the ride. So it was a good reminder to me that I do best with my nutrition if I'm just getting a pretty steady stream of calories throughout the day. And I really like the way Tailwind allows me to do that, because it's not always easy for some of us to eat solid food when we're doing something like this. Some of our bodies don't like it so much. So it was a good learning experience for me to understand just how important that is. The last thing I wanted to talk about is kind of the mental aspect of doing a big ride like this and pushing the limits of my endurance. It wasn't just physical, it was also very, very, very mental. Every woman who's ever given birth usually gets to a point where you're like, I'm so tired. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I want to do this. And I definitely reached that point at a certain stage of doing the Black Canyon Trail. I would say by about mile 30, I was like, ooh, I'm getting tired. And so I mentally, I knew, okay, I need to pull back a little bit if I'm going to stand any chance of completing this ride. So after about mile 30, I did kind of pull my speed back a little bit, kept pedaling. But when I really hit my biggest wall was the last time we crossed paths with our support vehicle. It was around mile 45. So we still had a little bit of riding to do and about an hour of climbing. I had earbuds and I had some music on my phone. I could have done music. And I thought that would be helpful, if I got to that place, but it wasn't, because I was just like, I can't stop and be messing around with my phone and earbuds. I just need to get riding as soon as possible, or I'm not going to be able to finish this. So I ended up not using my music that I had brought at all. Also, at that last stop, I had a clean chamois and some clean socks. And I just thought, as nice as that would be right now, if I take my pants off, I'm done. So, it was just interesting to see like how mental this was for me. And I just kind of had to quick change over, change batteries for my camera, get my water reservoir filled up, get my Tailwind. And Steve could just see the look in my eyes that I was just like, I need to start pedaling or I'm not going to make it. And so he's like, go ahead. So I pedaled for the first 10 or 15 minutes of that last segment by myself, knowing that they'd be able to catch up to me. And that was a big mental wall for me. That was really tough to push past, but I'm proud of myself for doing it. I just kind of had to putz it out that last 15 miles, but I made it. And I feel really good about that. I feel like I did something hard. Like a lot of you guys, I'm not a professional athlete, but it feels really good to set a goal that I know is going to be a stretch and to meet that goal. That's one of the things that I love about mountain biking. Is it's amazing to be in the outdoors, and there's something incredible about having these big, epic adventures like this. And as usual, please get involved in the comments below because I love hearing from you guys. A lot of you have had similar experiences, and it's always really fun to hear things that you learn from doing something like this, because I learn from you guys. Other people read the comments and we're all able to share, and it's so cool. So thank you for being a part of the Dusty Betty community. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check out these other videos, because if you've enjoyed this series, I think you like some of these ones too. Get dusty.